and this server is going to serve these documents to the server at a certain port number. And finally, we're going to create the routing patterns to direct the user to a very specific endpoint so we can send or show these documents to the web browser. So let's go to the IDE and create this application. All right, so here in the demo folder, I'm going to go and create a new folder here to store this simple application. So I'm going to create a folder, and I'm just going to call it simple node app. Okay, inside this app, I'm going to create the app file. So I'm going to go and create the app.js file. And also I'm going to create a folder to store those templates. Basically, those are just going to be like HTML documents. So I'm going to call those like public. Inside the public, then I'm going to create a document called, we'll call it index. This is the home page. Okay, and we'll create a few more, but I'll create one first, and we'll just copy and paste and so on. So it's a very simple document. I'm going to just go and type in document here, and then we'll put the HTML and header, and then have a title. Okay, and then the title will be just the home page. Right, and then inside here we have the body, and then the body could have like just maybe another simple message. Just say welcome to a simple node app, and that will be the home page. Okay, so I'm going to copy this and create two more files. We can just go over here, it's fine too. So just copy, Control-C, Control-V, and we'll just rename this to the about page, and we'll do one more, and we'll call this maybe like the contact page. Okay, so we're going to change this to say contact page, and say contact us. That's the contact us page. About will be just about page, and we'll put here about. I'll put here about node, simple node app. Okay, so let's save that. So those are my templates. The reason I do this is because we're going to use the file or the FS module to load or read these files, and then we're going to parse all this data as a string and return it back to the browser. Okay, so now in the app folder, we're going to create the server. So just like we did before, I'm going to go in here and type in a constant HTTP. We're going to require the HTTP library. I also need a file system. We went over this like way back at the beginning of the course. So the FS library will allow us to read files from the server. It's going to fetch these HTML documents. And so I need also a variable to point to the public folder. So I'm going to put it in here like maybe a constant, maybe just a directory, I guess, will point that to the public folder. Okay, so we can reference that later on when we try to access the file. All right, so now we're going to create a server, and so just like before, constant server is http.create server, and we're going to pass in two parameters, the request, and it's very common to use the REQ instead of the whole request, and I'll use that this time. It's just a little bit shorter for us to type. I'll use the arrow operator, and then we'll do that request in here, and then we're going to go ahead and then listen to the port number. A port number, instead of putting the actual number here, this is not good practice. So usually you put a variable in here like a port, okay? And you can do that. And then since we're going to do port, we're going to go up here and create a port number. So I'm going to go and say constant port is equal to, instead of also saying 3000, we want to make sure that if there's already a port existed or being used, we can just use that port. If there's no port assigned, then we can use the 3000. So that means over here, we're going to look at the process, and check the environment variable to see if it's a port already existed. If it is, use that one, or use the pipe symbol. That means, or else use the 3000. Okay. So now we have a port number, and you can put a message here just to show that we're listening to a port number. So I'll put a console log here. I'll put the link to the HTTP. And I'm going to use something that I have used before. Again, I might have used it, but I'm going to use the templating syntax, which is this backtick and HTTP localhost, and then I just put a colon followed by the escape operator, and here you put the port number. Okay, so I'm not going to use the plus concatenation here. So now that server is created, and then now we need to go inside here and create the routes, right? So we need to create the route and so on. So if the route is in the home directory, then we're gonna load the index. If it's in the about page, then we load the about HTML and so on. Okay, so I would just probably check to see, oops. So we're gonna check if the request.url, if it's equal to the /, that's the root directory, then this is the home page. Okay, then that means we're gonna fetch that HTML file index.html to the user, and we'll do that by using the fs or the file system to read the content and then load that to the browser. And so instead of putting everything here in the if block, so we're gonna have like 3 of them. We're gonna create a different function, like maybe down here somewhere, to render these to the browser. So I could do something like constant render. It's gonna be a function. We're gonna pass in the response so that we can write to the browser. So it takes the response and then the actual file document. So the file will be, I'll just call it file for now. Okay, and we'll go ahead and process that in here. Okay, so before we go and do that part, let's go up here and complete this process first. So if it's in the root directory, then we're going to go and call the render function, and we're going to pass in the response object along with the file. What is the file is going to be? Well, the file is this index.html. So I'm just going to hard code this in for now. So index.html, and that is the file we want to render to the browser. Okay, and if that's not the case, then we have the else if the request.url is equal to a about. Okay, if that's the case, then we're going to load that about page. So render the response object and about.html, and then here will be else if the request URL is equal to a contact, that's the endpoint, then we're going to render the contact page, right? And then we need to also do the catch-all, right? If there's none matching, then we need to say something. And you can do here, just say like file not found, or usually you can load that, you can take that to the home page if you want to. But I was going to put another message saying it's not found instead. So that means I'm going to go in here and write the message to write the head, because it's going to be inside here. So we want the status to be a 404. That means it's not found. And then the content type would be of, you want to be HTML. Okay, and then we set the header, and then we go ahead and write it. And again, you don't have to do it right, because if you do that, you have to do the end also. So just do a end, and then just put a message in here. So put like a maybe a I guess the same H1. Put here 404 file not found. Throw that to the user on the browser. Okay, so that is the else part. And so I think that's good for now. This part is pretty much done. And then inside here, this is where we're going to process the document. So let me save this first. So when we render this document, we're going to read the file first. Okay, so we're going to load the fs, which is the one that we created way up here in line 2. Use that and read the file here. So I'm going to say fs.read file. Remember when we read file, there are two functions. One is asynchronous, one is asynchronous. We always want to use the asynchronous, okay? So this one here takes a parameter, the path, which is the directory to this file. And if you just say file, right, it doesn't know where. We expect it to be in the root directory, but it is not. It's inside the public folder, and which is why I created this dir variable here to store the public folder here. So that means we're going to say dir plus the file, and then when we fetch the file, and then we're going to read the data, and then we're going to load this anonymous function. The first argument is the error. If there's any error, we put that there, and then the data that is read from the file we pass to this data object. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and process the data in here. So first we check if there's any error, meaning if the file is not found or a file cannot be read and so on. So we say if the error exists, that means something is wrong. Then we want to write out to the user, show the user that it's not found. So instead of typing again, I'm just going to go and copy lines 15 and 16. It's the same one, and put it right in here. Okay, so that is the error message, which is say file not found. Okay. If that's not the case, then we can go ahead and process the following information. So we're going to write the header again. So again, write head. So same thing. It's going to be a 200 this time. It's a success request, and the content type will still be. We still want the HTML type. So we set the header. And then we go ahead and then write the data that is from this file, and that is passed to this data chunk of data here. So we just gonna say we'll return it, right? We'll return the content, which is rs end, the actual data, and that's gonna be passed back to this function here, and then we'll render that to the browser. And I think that's about it. I'm going to put just some semicolon to mark my ending of the code block here. Okay, so let's see if I save this now. As you can see, there's no error so far. We don't know yet until we run it. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this file and see what happens. So go to the terminal, control backtick, and I'm going to the demo. Inside the demo is the simple app. Okay. So in here, this is our application. Why is there a test in here? That shouldn't be it. Oh, did I call it test? No, it's app. I'm not sure why that shows test here. It's just a little bit strange. Maybe it's a caching issue. But it should be an app in here, and I'm not sure why. Let's clear this. Just make sure I want to get the correct one. So let's go to the demo, and then go into the oh, I have a simple app and a simple node app. Yeah, I want to delete the other one. But we should go into the simple node app. Okay, simple node app. And then clear my console, and then so there's the app. Okay, so I'm gonna go and run the app, and then go to the localhost 3000. So up here, I'm going to type in localhost 3000. And so here's our little simple Node.js application. So far, there's no error. That's great. And if I type in the about, it loads the about page. If I go to the contact, it loads the contact page. And if I type anything else that doesn't match any of those, let's just say test, it says file not found. So perfect. That's the catch-all, right? If you do something here, there's nothing there, so it will load that document. So there you go. That's a really simple Node.js application. So you can see how you can actually build on this to make this a more robust application. And so now that you know how this is worked in Node.js, you can see the tedious work we have to do to create all these files manually when I mean by, I mean how to load the file to the fs object and so on. In the next section, we're going to use the Express.js framework to build a more robust application, so that we don't really have to rely on the this low-level code in Node.js. I'm going to say it again, I didn't like it. So this is the end of this section. Now that we know how to build application using Node.js, the low-level code, in the next section, we're going to build on top of this HTTP module to using the Express.js framework to build a more robust web application.